On the third day of Christmas, the Tigercast gave to me the third player of my best 23 in the lead up to Christmas. It's a bit of a Christmas special. We're going to reveal the best 23, but we're off to a pretty good start. I'll bring up the advent calendar. We can see who we've got on there already, and then we can open up door number 3 to see who we've got for the third day of December. So here's the calendar as it sits right now. Tim Taranto and Toby Nankervis were the first 2 players behind doors number 1 and number 2. A very, very solid start, 2 very experienced players. And you could definitely argue that the captaincy of the side is probably out of those 2 players, with Nankervis being obviously the carryover captain and Tim Taranto, again, kind of being sprouted as the unofficial leader of the club if you're looking at all the socials. So an interesting time to come, no doubt, on that vote. But we are here to have a look at door number 3 to see who the next addition to the best 23 is going to be. I have a good feeling about this one. Let's have a look. Who we got behind door number 3? It is Sammy Lawler. Very, very good selection. I don't think we're going to have too many troubles finding a spot for him on the field. However, the difficulty may become trying to decide whether we put him at half forward or whether we put him in the midfield. Now, there's going to be a large portion of people screaming that it's midfield, 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 and I probably don't disagree with that, and I think that's where I might ultimately land. But I guess when you sort of look at what the club's been saying about him, they definitely view him as a forward mid. And I think we've heard a few times that even the split of game time felt like it was more in favour of the forward role at the moment. I think longer term that will flip. I think this year we're going to see 60% forward, 40% midfield, and I'm kind of hoping in another 1 to 2 years that'll sort of gradually flip over and be 60% midfield. But he's a big unit. He's put on some serious size this pre-season, and I don't know. You can't help but have a really good feeling about what he's going to do in 2026. He's just ticking all the boxes at the moment, coming off obviously that hamstring surgery, which was a shit awful way to end his season, but it seems to have been pretty successful, and he's doing well on the training track, and that's all he can do at the moment. So we've got nothing else to gauge by, but he's looking fit and primed for a big 2026. With that said, let's jump across to the starting lineup. We'll see where we can slot him in, and we'll see how it's looking so far with our first 3 picks. Okay, so here we are with the team selection sheet, and as you can see so far, we've got Toby Nankervis in at the ruck and Tim Taranto in the centre spot. It's a really interesting position where to put him. I think it's going to have to be as a rover or a ruck rover, but like I said, I do see him having a lot of impact up forward. You got to remember, this guy's nearly 190 centimetres, quite strong. He's going to be a really difficult matchup at either part of the ground. I just think he's going to do most of his damage for us, sort of like what Dusty did. I'm trying not to do the Dusty comparison because I want Sam to be his own player, even though he has taken on the number 4, so it makes it a bit more difficult to not have those natural ties to Dusty. But he's going to be a similar player, but I do think that Sam Lawler will be more of an aerial threat up forward than what Dusty ever was. Dusty was a threat for a lot of different reasons up forward, but I think Lawler will have those same type of threats about him in a one-on-one situation, but it's his aerial presence, his strength in a marking contest, beautiful kick for goal. So I can see the value in the club wanting to play him at half forward, but I do think that for the purpose of us going forward as a team, we do need to see him in as a midfielder. So I'm going to chuck him in the rover spot for the moment. I think that's where he'll stay, but I think it's also important that if we're going to have Sam Lawler in the midfield, that we have to get the balance and the blend right. Same for any of the other midfielders, not just exclusive to Sammy. But so what I mean by that is with Taranto and Lawler, whilst both very good players, but neither are blessed with natural blistering pace. And that's okay, because they do a lot of other things very, very well. All that means, though, is when it comes to that final spot as the ruck rover, that's where I think we would have to avoid using a Prestia, avoid using a Jacob Hopper. I think you would have to lean towards someone a bit more nimble, whether it's a Kane McAuliffe. Jack Ross has got a bit more toe. You got Tash Houghton. Even if you go a bit of a wild card, you got Seth Campbell, although you're probably not going to do that for a starting midfield spot. Same with Morris Jr. So I just think we need to make sure we get the balance right when we have Sam Lawler in the middle of the ground. And what's going to be beautiful about this in 2 to 3 years' time is we've still got Sam Cumming, who we obviously just picked up, who sort of plays in a very similar manner, I think, to Sam Lawler. Very physical, a good size already, a good forward presence, again, a good mark, a good kick for goal, and can hunt the ball really well. So I do think that they are going to be a very, very good 1-2 combo rotating from half forward to midfield. I think that gives us a really good bit of depth in both those spots to keep sort of elite players on both lines, which I think will be handy in the long term. But no, Sam Lawler, absolutely no-brainer to chuck him into the midfield. And taking on the number 4, like we said before, it felt like it was a matter of time. And I know I myself have just made a couple of dusty comparisons, but I do genuinely wish and believe that Sam Lawler will be his own player and make his own history at the Richmond Football Club. What will be interesting as well in the captaincy sort of side of things, with the 3 players we've got on the park so far, like I said, Taranto and Nankervis are the 2 most probable in line for captaincy again for 2026. I have seen a couple of trains of thought where, if Taranto were to take over in next year, the year after, whatever it might be, and go through for 4 or 5 years, then by the time sort of he maybe comes to an end, that someone like Sam Lawler might be ready if he is, that way inclined, wanting to do the leadership side of things. So I think there's a lot of scope to grow. However, I think it's also very, very important for these young kids to just be able to learn the ropes and play football and get out there and do their thing, because that's how they're going to, give the most back to the club. So can't wait to see Sam Lawler out there in round 1. There's going to be exciting things. You don't have a debut of 18 disposals and 2 goals in front of 80,000 at the G if you're shabby at the game. And as EJ's always said, and he stands by it, that what we saw of Sam Lawler and the other draftees last year, that's the worst we're going to see of them. So it's a pretty exciting time. We know that Sam Lawler didn't really have a full pre-season of football because he was always dual-coded with cricket and footy. And he was a bit interrupted with his pre-season at AFL level last year. So hopefully he gets a really good run at it this year. He's been doing a lot of work in the off-season, it looks like, as well. And I reckon he's primed for, do we call it a potential breakout year? I'm not sure if we're going a bit early with that, but I can see him taking a hold of a few games and really making a difference for us, which is exactly why we drafted him. So Sam Lawler, welcome to the best 23 for December. I think you'll be there in Jan, Feb and March as well, just quietly. But good to have him on board, and make sure you like and subscribe for more Richmond content. And until the next one for day number 4, go Tigers.